So we're here at Ron Carter's house, and today we're going to be doing a special subscriber-only question and answer. I guess the questions that you guys submitted were submitted yesterday at 5, so we're going to get through as many as we can. We probably won't get to all of them, but there'll be another similar session going on about a month from now. So we'll hopefully get to those questions that we didn't get to today. We'll get to them then. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and get things started here. Our first question is from Eva and her younger brother, Sebastian. They ask, what strengths do you believe make a great musician? And do you have any weaknesses that you actively work to improve on?
That's pretty big question. I'll try to make it so I don't take up everyone else's answer time. I kind of insist on the following things for the groups when I assemble my band, what the personnel must be able to do or have in their toolbox. One, they must be on time for the rehearsals and the gigs. And for me, on time means at least 45 minutes before my downbeat. Number two, they must be able to read music, specifically my music. I've had people come in and say, well, look, let me feel like this. Let me feel it. I said, no, man, you feel this B flat in the second staff. Three, they must have a dark suit and or a tuxedo. That's part of the uniform of this band. We always look good. Number four, they must be willing to accept the direction from the band leader, in this case, me. And I say that because guys and gals who are new to a band, they want to establish their personality. They want to establish them. And I tell them, well, you, them, are in the band. What else do you need to establish? You're with X number of people around you, 16 or 17 or 4 or 5, whatever side the band, you're in, you know. And lastly but not least, they must understand that they're very talented, but they got to put some time in to get better. I think that they think they can walk in and play just on inspiration and perspiration and ink from the last review to make this band work because they're there. You're sadly mistaken. Hopefully these things are required don't discourage them from joining this band. And they think that this band has rules that they're not willing to put up with. Well, that's the chance you take when you take a stand. Sometimes the stand you have, it requires you to pay the price. Sometimes the price is more expensive than they want to pay. But then you go to the bank and borrow some money. If you want to join that band, you pay to be quiet and get back in. That's pretty uncomplicated in the long run. That's a nice, pleasant answer, and I hope it wasn't too long.
Okay, so the next question is from Marshall. In the 60 plus years you have recorded, can you remember any challenging sessions that you didn't think would turn out successfully, but ended up doing so? What were your concerns and what circumstances allowed it to succeed?
Okay, Mr. Barron, who's my reader here, my friend, you have to give me either fewer questions per person
Okay.
or fewer persons per question.
Okay.
That's a whole lot of questions. I want to answer Marshall Zook if I can. So if you give me the first one at a time, and I'll try to
Okay,
get it.
sure. Can you remember any challenging sessions that you didn't think would turn out successfully, but ended up doing so?
I never go to work thinking that they won't work out. Excuse me, Marshall. I like to think that one of the reasons I'm there is people think that I can be the glue to hold a project to work. And if I'm going to accept that responsibility of that definition of one of the things that I can do, I'm not going in there looking for a band that's splintered. I'm looking there so I can help these guys play better. So I don't go in there knowing that this band is already fractured, so to speak, or not together in terms of falling apart. I don't go in there like that. I look for that this is a good band, to hire this person, in this case me, to maybe be the ingredient that they need to make the band complete. I'm ready to go to work.
I guess your answer kind of answered the second question, which is what were the circumstances that allowed it to succeed? So I think that was pretty clear, though.
Okay.
So we have another question from Ben Greenbow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ron, love the Autumn Leaves Chartography book. Any chance you'd consider doing this as a series with other standards? I've learned so much as guitar player from this.
Well, I think um, one of the big one of the big takeaways is to have a couple glass of water nearby. Okay, that's the first thing I learned. The second thing, though, one of the focuses of this book is not necessarily the tune in and of itself, but this tune is a vehicle to demonstrate the ability of a bass, in this case, me, a bass player, to affect the responses from, in this case, a quartet, trumpet, drums, and piano, to what my desires are harmonically and rhythmically to give this song another shape, or in addition to the original shape, night in and night out. That format could have been used, analysis could use with any kind of song, any tune, anytime, depending on how often they are played. In this case, five different concerts that had decent sound because they were recorded at different places to work. Autumn Leaves just happened to be that song. I knew that going into this project and this process, I needed to find as near a library and laboratory as I could find. And I knew that this band was going to play Autumn Leaves for the first tune every night to turn out for the next 5.5 years. So the setup was the same every night. The instruments were different because we were traveling on the road. There was often no sound check. There was no, can you bring a better piano? Can you fix the drum head? There's never time for that situation to be rectified. We were going to work. All we had to tie this together were these five people trying to play great every night with the same broad library. To make this analysis work, I needed the same tune every night to show the evolving and the development of not just the bass line, but how that bass line affected everyone else around the band at this time for the same setup. So it's a perfect demonstration, a perfect experimental laboratory. Again, Autumn Leaves was just a song I picked. It could have been the theme. It could have been any tunes we played, Sail by Starlight. But I think that this is the easiest thing that everybody knows this song, whether they play it good or not. And this is my view of how to analyze the basses, how the bassist and me are able to direct the band harmonically and rhythmically, knowing the library and that we got a chance to fix this the next night for the same tune at the same time somewhere else. So any tune would have done. Autumn Leaves was the most reasonable choice to pick.
So you would consider doing a series with this? That's what they're asking.
I've thought about that. I'm so exhausted after doing that. Just enough to have the same breakfast every morning. But let me just think. We're working on some other concepts along that same line, and if I can find the same physical setting available to me, of course, I'll try it again, and hopefully I'll reach the same kind of interest from people who buy it to see that there's a possibility for the bass player does, in fact, have the capacity to stop from standing behind the palm tree and the plan so that everyone else hears his thoughts. Sorry, and her thoughts.
So we have a question from Gabrielle Cesaro. They would like to know, I'd love to know if you have any questions about, sorry, let me say that again. I'd love to know if you have any stories about working with Gil Evans.
I have about 8, but I'll just take one because there are people in line. One of the things I liked about Gil was his ability to make the chords sound so tight. And I knew that if he was playing and writing this really tight harmony, like A, C sharp, C natural, B flat, right in this chord, if I could find the right bass note, if I could play an F, that sounded completely different. And Gil accepted my choice of notes to make the sound he thought he had written, not quite that same sound with my new bass note. We worked together in New York at a place called the Jazz Gallery many years ago for 8 weeks with a 10-piece band. It was great every night to know that here's an arranger who trusted my choice of notes despite what he had written. We really had a wonderful time. We had some nice records, and he would come by Sweet Bass when I was working there with Billy Higgins and Cedar Walton. We just talk about chords and harmony and the importance of the bass line, and he understood that dynamic. Wonderful guy to know, wonderful guy, and he wrote really. I got one of his scores he did for that Miles Davis Sketches of Spain. And I saw the score. He wrote the notes. They're about this big. And no wonder the guys missed the notes because they couldn't see them. They didn't get the spyglass and do it like this. Loved him, and I miss him.
We have a question from Grant Smith from Australia.
Oh, wow.
He would like to know some of your strategies for maintaining regular practice routines. And along those lines, what have you experienced that really works in maintaining your level of musicianship?
Well, I'll ask the last question first. One of the things that helped me maintain where I think I am and try to reach another level each night is that when I go to work at night, it's my chance to play good. It's my chance to help the band hear another harmonic direction. It's my chance to be a presence on the bandstand. And it's my chance to see what I learned from last night. Those are the things that make me going to work. And it is, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, work. Make going to work fun. And I think that if I can get the younger guys to understand that every night is not a showcase for them, but a showcase for the music they're presenting and the band they're responsible for, I think they'll be surprised at how much better the band sounds, and ultimately they get better too. What was the first part of that question, Mr. Barron?
Strategies for maintaining your regular practice routines.
That's a little difficult. It's easy now because I'm not working so much, but when I was working, I'm on the bass 6 to 7 hours, probably 6 days a week. My practice habits would be changed because I didn't have the time to practice, or I was not near a bass to practice. When you're traveling, you're kind of on your own. But when I have the moment to have a quiet time, if the hotel, if I can get a bass to get to where I'm working on the gig early enough, an hour before set time, or if I have time at my house before I'm leaving for the gig, I try to play just a couple of scales to find out how the bass feels that day, and maybe part of a Bach cello suite just to see how the bass sounds with that register. I probably do those two things more than anything else. When I'm practicing, I'm not trying to show my skills. I'm trying to develop my skills. And to develop them, you need a certain kind of technical concept to make those skills you think you need available to you. And I found that scales and certain etudes I've worked on down through the years have made that option more available to than not. So I'm not going in and practicing like Oscar Pettiford or sound like Ray Brown or Israel Crosby. I know what they do and I appreciated that, but I'm trying to find a way for me. And I found that certain etudes and the Bach etude for cello things, suite for bass, allows me to develop another sound that I have in a very short time of practice, like 1 hour.
And Grant had another question. Where do you think music and education is heading with today's current situation?
Grant, is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm not sure where they are, but if you find the address, please email it to me and let me get there for everybody else.
All right. This question is from Robert. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. In situations where things are getting a little chaotic rhythmically, and the band is looking to the bassist to get everyone on the same page, what methods do you use just keeping good time through the chaos?
It depends on several things. Who the tallest guy in the band is, and who ultimately writes the checks. If I'm both of those, I carry a small stick, and I have a small shark nearby. If I'm not the band leader, and I'm not the pay check writer, I have a bigger stick. And I'm inclined to give those guys a root more often, just to let them know that I do know where the form is, and I do think it belongs right here. You want a root? Here's one. Bam, F, S7, F on the bass, top of the tune. The things I can do depending on the band's awareness of the bass player in the band, which may be one of the reasons why they're falling apart rhythmically. And I don't mind doing those devices when I think it's really critical to make the band feel like at least here's some guy who thinks he's in charge and he's going to show me that by playing these notes with certain rhythm. I'm pretty good at that. And I'm getting better the more I find these environments that are not so much rhythmically hostile, but looking for somebody to rein in this enthusiasm to put this concept in a better order, in a better form, clearly a different form. And I think that by playing a certain order of notes and playing a little less rhythmically active and playing a little more quarter note feeling in our lines, I think if the guys listen to this information that's at the back of the band, kind of helps him figure out where he thinks we belong, and let's jump on this wagon.
This question comes from Glenn Rainey. What is more important to you, technique or style?
I'm not sure how you can separate the two. I mean, they both need each other to exist. And it depends on how much skill level you have or lack of skill level you have to determine what ultimately is your style.
Okay. This question, this is kind of a long one. This is from Bill Wingert. I have an embarrassing beginner question, but I'm desperate to get past this flaw in my playing. I drift out of the form sometimes when I'm soloing. I'm practicing 8-bar ideas and thinking of the melody while I'm out there in an idea I'm trying to develop. Can you offer any suggestions on ways to practice staying in the form while you're listening for something to say?
Okay. What's his name again, David?
Bill.
Bill? I think, and I'm going out on the limb with all these people watching me say this answer, and I hope that none of them can see you get mad at me for saying what I'm going to say. But here we go. Bill, I'm not sure you know the form. I mean, know the form. I'm not so sure you know what the changes are to the form that you're not quite sure of. Until you can nail those things down in your head. This is the form, ladies and gentlemen, and me. And these are the changes that make this form do what it does. And to me, it's difficult to do what you're trying to do and maintain your form in the tune. The other thing that can help you, Bill, is that if the band, in this case the piano player and drummer player, don't take a nap while you're playing the solo. I think what that does, Bill, is allow you to have no responsibility to maintain the form on your own. If you don't know the song, Bill, if you don't really know the melody, Bill, and you don't really know the changes, Bill, you have no chances getting past the first 4 bars of whatever it is you're trying to play. I tried to explain, tried to explain to the pianist and the drummer that I need the same support that they gave the last saxophone player or the lead horn player. And bass players who think they sound great with no accompaniment should be able to hear that take back and get a better view on what's really not happening and why it's not happening. Those guys taking a nap during the bass solo are not doing anything for you except making you feel more embarrassed and getting lost. They allow you to be irresponsible to the form that you think you know, but you clearly don't know without this information from the drums and the piano to help you out, Bill. So now that I've made you get mad at me, here's one more thing to get mad about. Tell those guys to stay on the bandstand and enjoy what your efforts are. I know that they're going to the back, they have a cigarette, or they're on the phone. No, man, look, I'm up here playing my brains out, and you're in the back doing like this or whatever. No, I'm here. Stay enjoying the party. I want you to be as surprised as the audience is what they say. And when they see you split, they're going away, so I just go in my head. I turn them off, and I'll go on my iPhone. I did that already. Guys. One thing, guys, you always learn is don't make the bass player mad at you. Otherwise, you will be chum for this guy. This is my pet. Have a small leash. Yeah. No, not a leash. Leash. Yeah. I own this. I'm not paying any rent. It's okay. Thanks, Bill.
All right. So this question is from Gulshan. Was there one gig in particular that you will never forget, and why was it so special?
That's the kind of question that's similar to what I get asked about the best record I made and the best gig I made. And I never answer those questions because it implies, just because I would dare to separate those, or that this gig I'm bringing up as the highlight implies that all the 6 or 7 others that I made and the last record I made, it wasn't as good as this one. And I don't buy into that trap. I don't buy into that concept. I would tell you, however, that each gig I've done, each record I've made, all 17 of them, has allowed me to get better and better. And I assure you, I understand that the theory lessons I've learned and able to put in play, the rhythms I've tried to fool around with and try to see what didn't work, the pitches I played, the sound I bring, all those bands I've made records with and played with, they accept that this guy is no longer behind the palm tree. And he's determined to be a part of the band's development. They trust my judgment, whether they don't understand that note or that rhythm, but they trust me. So I would never say that this was the most important gig I made, or this is the best set of my life. If I do that, it's time to hang up the bass and take up tuba, or take up collecting newspapers. None past 1937.
This question is from Charles Schwager.
Hello, Charles.
He asks, how do you bend these notes? So I'm going to modify that and say, you're kind of known for the way that you slide and bend notes, but somehow the listener can always tell it's you, even if there's someone trying to imitate you. Like, they can always tell it's you. So how do you arrive at that?
I'm not sure we have enough time, and I'm afraid to leave my chair to get my bass out to show you 1 or 2 notes. Hold on 1 minute. Don't go away.
Forget the bass?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want them to keep seeing you.
Okay.
So that you're not playing, I'm playing.
Okay, cool. Hold on, folks, for a second. I'll get the bass.
Okay.
I think that deserves a round of applause. So. All right. So along those lines, though, it always seems like a natural course of events. Like the bass, by nature, it seems like it's a sliding instrument, right? There's no frets and so on. But it seems inconceivable, but that no one really utilized that up through the history of bass until we arrived at you. So
Well,
it's kind of amazing that.
I think the creator decides who's going to do what, and it's my turn to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
However, that's the time for that kind of ready for our lunch break after all that. My milk and cookies. Okay.
Okay, let's go to the next question here.
Please.
This question is from, sorry, one sec. Okay. This question is from Sergio Mariotti. He had a number of questions, but kind of boils down to, do you think it is possible to live as a jazz musician even now? Sometimes I feel that it would be easier to just have a job and be a hobby musician.
Be a what musician?
A hobby, like a hobbyist.
Hobby.
Yeah.
You asked a question that I can't answer for you. I don't know your talent level. I don't know your discipline level. I don't know if you've had lessons and been discouraged by the teacher who wasn't a very good one. I don't know if you played with guys who encouraged you because you were, I assume, the bass player who they said bass players are just a guy in the back of the band. I don't know your environment, so I really can't answer that question with the answer you want, other than say, if you really want to be a good jazz player, you got to do some of the following things. 1, get a teacher. 2, play as often as you can. 3, play a lot of terrible notes, figure out why they're terrible, and go to work the next night trying to fix them. You got to be professional. You got to be to work on time. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to go to the gig every night 1 hour early to get in shape, but to make sure that your bandstand is still there, the music is still there, and stuff? Are you willing to buy a dark suit and a tuxedo for the guys part of the gig? Are you willing to make a whole night without taking a solo? Can you get by with everybody telling you, man, yes, you keep playing A flat too high. Can you play that in too? Are you willing to tolerate that? If you can do none of those things, you have a tough time making good jazz, because all the guys who do what I just now said you have to do, those guys are good players. I'm trying to join that group. Okay?
All right. This question is from Jim Anderson. He wants to know if you've ever experienced a tightening in either the right or left hand fingers when playing up.
Dave, I'm not sure they can. Some point that they can't hear you read the question.
I'm sorry, I was just muted. My apologies.
Thank you, Daryl.
This question comes from Jim Anderson. He wants to know if you've ever experienced a tightening in either the right or left hand fingers when playing up or very up tempos.
No, I haven't, and I think there's one of all the things that you cannot practice at home is how to play fast. But I think there's a mistake in how to learn how to do that. And I think one of the mistakes bass players look to is that sheer exhaustion. I think one of the two reasons that happens, and I've got your name, I'm sorry, is that you don't really know the changes to the tune past a certain speed. And you don't have the skill level to maintain that skill, whatever the tempo is. It has nothing to do with being the strongest guy on the bandstand, or the guy with the most determination to be the last guy standing. I do know those gigs. And I do know where you got lined up 8 saxophone players, 7 of them shouldn't be there, waiting to get some of you. Okay, that's part of the process, Having said that, one of the reasons I've been able to get through those moments is that I really know the tune we're trying to play. I mean, I really know that song. I can sit down and write you the changes. And 2, I'm constantly working on my skill level. Not solos, not hit bass lines. What technique do I need to find the notes I hear? If I can do those 2 things enough times in a row, it allows me to speed up my thinking process. So I'm no longer worried about playing this F7 to B at a ballad. Can I think faster with first finger on D string, F? What notes are here? I don't know. Wow, can you play this tune past the ballad? The chord note equals 92. If you have second finger F sharp on the D string, where else can you play that F sharp? Gee, Mr. Carter, well, wait. The chorus is, we already into the bridge now. That's what I call skill. I think it isn't the guy who does this the fastest and the hardest, Well, they get through some kind of way, but if you hear their notes, I'm not sure they put the best choice of notes, and I can understand how they get exhausted after the first enthusiasm kind of wears itself out. They call that adrenaline? Is that what they call that? Yeah. The old adrenaline trick. Yeah. Don't do that. Okay?
Okay. This next question is from Paul Fonseca.
Hello, Paul.
Did you ever spend any time with Paul Chambers or have the opportunity to talk with him? If you did, would you be able to say what you both spoke about? I know that you were classmates, right?
I didn't know him very well. I think his father and my dad were bus drivers on the same bus line in Detroit. At the time I got to New York, Miles Davis Band, which was Paul's primary employer at the time, they were really working a lot of gigs. So my chances of seeing and meeting him were not very good because came to New York as a master's student in Manhattan. So my time was spent making 8 o'clock classes and working the night trying to get some work to support my family. So we didn't have that much time for conversation because our schedules were so going in a different direction. We did speak. We did talk some very general conversations about Detroit, and his family had 2 sons at the time, and we didn't talk about music because I'm not sure he knew I'm not sure I knew what to ask him, and I'm not sure he felt like explaining how he played stablemates, or how he played milestones. So our conversations were kind of limited. I've never been the kind of guy to hang out to get information. When the gig is over, I'm over. When it's done, I'm going home. Got a wife, got a couple of young sons. I need to have a time to think about what I just tried to do and why it didn't work or why it worked better than last night. So to hang out after the gig with the guys and do what they do, man, I'm not there. No, not at all. But he was clearly a genius of the bass. He clearly did some things that had not been brought to the instrument before. And clearly he was a person whose playing I admired. But I never went for dinner. We never had a coffee chat. We never exchanged ties. None of those things. Okay?
So this question comes all the way from Africa. His name is Pape Fall. We hardly ever see you in Africa. Can we hope to see you there soon? You have a lot of fans there.
I'd love to get over there. I was there many years ago to the island of Gorée in Senegal. They made a tremendous impression on me as.
Sorry, I was muted there. I'm gonna read.
Yeah.
Say the question.
Okay, go ahead.
My apologies. Okay. Okay. Sorry, we're going to say that question again. I keep forgetting to unmute myself.
Thanks, Daryl.
This question comes from Pape Fall from Africa. He says, we hardly ever see you in Africa. Can we hope to see you there soon? You have a lot of fans here.
I was been there many years ago, probably 30 years ago, when my late wife was doing a research paper, and I went to Senegal and Dakar. And I went to the Gorée Island, which is the island of last return, no return, and where the slaves were shipped off to various points away from Africa. It still has made a tremendous impression on me. And to know that I'm standing on the land that my four forefathers were taken from and spread out to the world everywhere but Africa. I'm anxious to come home, and I'm anxious to see how the music is, and anxious to meet my fellow African musicians. And as soon as the world starts to open up again, hopefully I will be able to find a promoter who is able to work out the situation where I can, in fact, return and say hello again. Okay.
Okay. This question comes from Luca. How do you keep yourself always motivated in studying music and learning new things? And he has another question, but I'll let you answer that one first.
As I mentioned earlier, I go to work every night, and it is work underlined in capital letters, to find out what else can I learn tonight, one, and two, how can I help my fellow musicians of the evening play differently and better just because I'm standing there. And I say standing because I never play sitting on a gig. I like the ability to be able to be responsible for giving a theory class every now and then on the bandstand or some kind of rhythmic dictation. I like that reputation of being able to do that. But more and more, I like the guys understanding that I'm going to work every night to get better at doing what it is I do. I think to go to work just because I'm going to work, I mean, that's kind of fruitless, you know. I like the challenge of challenging me. I think one of the things that drives me to do that is my own personal view of my personal being. I know I've done some good things. Can I improve on those? Can I make up for the notes that I played last night? They were not the best choice. Yeah, they were a choice, but there's another way to get that done. Can I bring my memory from the last night or the last set or the last gig to this current gig and make that new view of this F7 or this new view of playing 3 against 4 work at this tune with this band who's got a different harmonic and rhythmic sense? I look for these challenges every night when I go to work. Hopefully I get better that night so I can get even better for the next night based on what I've already learned. Going to work is fun for me, despite the gray hair. But I have nice ties, and that's really good too. 2 more questions, Mr. Barron, and we'll call it a day.
Okay. Luca just had a second part of the question.
Okay.
He wants to know, have you always wanted to play jazz music since the beginning of your career? Or other genres that you've been interested in?
No. As a matter of fact, I started out as a classical cellist who got a lot of young ink. And I was a young African-American player, 12, 14, 15, 16. And I played cello until my senior year in high school. And I switched to string bass because I felt that I wasn't given the chance to play in organizations that required cello players. Certainly they didn't require African-American cello players. So I switched to string bass my senior year in high school, which would make it the spring of 1955. Talked my parents into letting me try string bass. I sold my cello and made a down payment on the string bass, got some lessons. Auditioned for the Eastman School of Music in the spring of 55. I was awarded a full scholarship to Eastman. Went to Eastman for 4 years, and at Eastman I was joined a band, a house band that featured jazz all night, all week. And I had a house band to play opposite some famous jazz band players. And in the meantime, I'd come back to Detroit for vacations and work during holidays and summer breaks. And one of my neighbors was a Dave Brubeck fan. And at the time, a lot of the fraternities and sororities would give weekend dances. And he said, I need a bass player. Can you do this job? I said, well, I'm not really sure what it entails. He said, well, listen to this record and learn these tunes. I said, well, I've always good at rhythmic and harmonic dictation. I can do that, you know. So it was that Dave Brubeck Jazz Goes to College record. There was a really big, one of the really first big group jazz records to sell a whole lot. So I learned those tunes. I didn't understand how they got to those points, but I understood where they ended up. And I did that for a couple of summers, and in Rochester I got better, and I got more and more gigs with the bands, and here I am in New York, 55 years later, still looking for the right notes and still on time for the gigs. Still got a new tuxedo, got my shoes shined. I'm always at the gig 1 hour earlier to make sure my stuff is still there from last night, and the day guy who cleans up didn't try to play the bass or fool with my amp. I know those guys, man. Well, Daryl don't know. Daryl knows. Daryl's been there. He knows he goes to the gig and somebody moves the stand 3 feet away and the piano's always, no. Daryl, don't do that. Take your bass home every night. I take mine home every night. I'm playing it. I'm moving it. I'm playing it. I'm bringing it back. I want to be sure of 2 things, Daryl. 1, it's still my bass. And 2, there's still 4 strings waiting for me to play them. Not 3. Not 2.5, because my tune to done. No. I'm the guy. I'm sole responsibility for that. I signed up for it. And I re-enrolled every semester. Got a card. You're a part of the base. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, okay. And thanks for reminding him about being muted, Daryl. One more question, Dave.
Okay. This question is from Richard Prosh. He'd like to know more about your recording the album Super Strings. It's one of his all-time favorites with Kenny Barron. How did that record come about?
Well, one of my last projects was Milestone, I think, and Tony May, the engineer, who's a really wonderful guy. In addition to that, asked me, say, "Well, hey Ron, I got this. You got this record. Let me talk to you about that." I said, "Okay." You know, how about trying some other things? I said, "Okay, like what?" And he mumbles some stuff. I said, "Speak up. Don't be afraid. Speak up. You got good vocabulary. I know those big words past more than two syllables. You know." So he told me some ideas. I said, "Well, okay, let me see if I can find a violin player who can help work this out. Let's see if we can find some guys who understand the broad feeling of playing these phrases a little bit different than Beethoven Fifth, you know." So we called my friend Sanford Allen, who again I've loved dearly through all these years. I said, "Sanford, we got this project, and what it's going to take is string players who understand the difference between a Beethoven Fifth and a Miles Davis Fifth. You know, when they play the F sharp a little bit flat, that it's really okay. You know, I encourage that. Can you find some players who understand that and don't get upset if I say, can you stop playing so fucking in tune? Just make that a little flatter the next time around. Can we do that? Yeah." So he said, "Yeah, we could do that." So he found some people, and in New York, man, they're all around. They just got to have to find somebody to find them. And Wade Marcus, who did the arrangements, he's known for his Motown arrangements. You know, really a good arranger, and he was interested to try to make this a new sound. And I think that's the day where the drummer got there late because he was stuck in traffic. And so the first part we did with no drums to see if we could make it work. And it turned out that we added drums later on, but that Super Strings, that's really a nice record with great tempo, great tunes. Tony got a good sound on the basses that day, and I was ready to go ahead and dance. Although I don't really dance. It's just a figure of speech, ladies and gentlemen. No, I'm not moonwalking across the stage and doing the twist. Only if it's a B flat 7, the guy keeps playing the wrong notes. Do we get twisted? You know, just a chubby checker twist. That kind of stuff. One more, Dave, and let's call it a day.
This one's kind of
Hi, Carolyn.
this one's kind of a broad question, but Greg Kelman would like to know.
Wait a minute, you said broad question. I say hello, Carolyn. Is that the connection there I missed?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to unmute again.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Say that one more time.
I just said hello to Carolyn. And
Oh, okay. So Greg Kelman wants to know what inspires you to strive to get better and be the best that you can be.
Probably watching my father raise 8 kids during some difficult racial times in Detroit in the early 30s and 40s. He was born in 1910, and as he got older and got better, got more mature, he would grow up, you know. They recognized he had a math genius. And at 18, when he was ready to go to college, the colleges were not ready to accept an African-American male doing anything but sweeping the floor occasionally. So he ended up not being able to work on that skill level he was clearly had available to him. But I watched him raise a family of 6 girls and 2 boys and a wife. I watched him build a house. I watched him make sure that the kids had something to eat every meal, every day. I watched him provide clothes. I watched him provide style. I watched him provide humanity. I watched him provide sharing in that of all things from the snow that his house, everybody's house within 3 houses got their snow shoveled by the Carter kids. The lawns get mowed. Everybody's lawn within a 2 house radius. They got their lawns mowed by Carter's Ron and Lutheran. Yeah. Back in the day, we did that, and I watched that happen for as long as I can remember. That started me wanting to be the best I can be and not accepting anything less from me. Okay? On that note, let's call it a day. We do this a month from now, and look, we will try to get all your questions answered. Sometimes I can't get to them. The questions are really long. They command some kind of special attention. So Daryl and Luca and Ian and Darius and Joe and Anthony and Chuck and Randall and Chris and John and Al and my man Daryl with the demute yourself button. Please, a month from now, I'll see you again with some questions, and hopefully Simon will get a chance to answer yours, or Ian, Eric, Igor, wherever you are, Nostrovia.